Hello, this video is to uh, describe how we can configure Automation Studio to communicate with Siemens S7-1200 using OPC UA server connection. So basically, uh, what I'm showing over here, I already started a project in Automation Studio, a very simple one, in which I'm having two buttons, one for motor start, one for motor stop. Basically, these two buttons are connected on input 0 and 1 of a PLC Siemens Simatic S7-1200. And I connected a, uh, a control relay uh, on output 0, so that basically what we'd like to do is that running the program, uh, if ever I activate the stop button, it will start the motor that I'm having over here, exposing over here, and stopping the motor with the stop button. So if you look at the application, the way it is at this actual step here, so I'm running in simulation mode. So if I start my disconnect, I just energize my circuits, and then if I start and stop, you see here the connection, the electrical connection for the two push button is done, but I don't have any uh, output activated to start the motor. So this logic would like to do it in a Siemens S7-1200 PLC, and then we want to do connection between the Siemens and Automation Studio so that the PLC execute the logic that I'm just illustrating to you here in Automation Studio. So what we do as a first step for this, we have to prepare the environment on the computer here for OPC UA communication between Automation Studio and the PLC. So to do that, I prepared here a PDF document which explains what we should be doing first before to put everything in place so that we can do this type of communication. So first part of this process is we're using the TIA portal uh, software. And in the TIA portal, it's very simple. For having a project, or in this project, I'm just like you select the PLC, and using the general tab in device and network, I start doing some configuration to the PLC program. So basically, what we should do, general, we go to the protection and security tab, and then we scroll in and permit access to the to the put and good communication from remote partner. And this part is important to ensure that the PLC can communicate with an outside partner. Now, next part is, since we are still in this place in TIA portal, we continue in the general tab by selecting the OPC UA section, and we select general out of it, and then we take note of the address of the OPC UA Siemens address, which is this is string, it's OPC TCP, the IP address colon 4840. So we take note of this because we're going to be using it later on with in the validation with UA Expert and Automation Studio. Once we do this part, we can move on and launch the UA Expert application. UA Expert application is an application that you can download from the internet. And in this application, we have to do some configurations to communicate with the PLC. So what we do first in the application, so once you launch it, you click on the plus button to establish a connection, and then it gives you an add server uh, dialog, And the add server dialog here, what you do is you go on the advanced tab and then you punch in there the address, the PLC address provided, OPC PLC address provided by the PLC through TIA portal. And this is actually what I ask you to take note of. And we're going to select an authentication settings as anonymous. And then we click on OK to complete this part. Now, once we do that, in UA Expert, we can start initiate the connection with the OPC UA server of the Siemens. Then if I click on the button over here, I'm showing what it's going to do first. It's going to give a bad certificate untrusted status because basically this is the first time UA Expert communicate with the PLC. So what we'll do, we'll have to validate the communication with the PLC connection by clicking on a Trust Server Certificate button in this dialog. So this ensured that now the PLC is trusted by UA Expert. And what you're going to find out is that as soon as I'm clicking on a Trust Server certification, the status change here to good. And I click continue to complete the process. Once this is done, the next step is to copy. There is an OPC UA certificate that has been exchanged between the UA Expert application and the PLC. So we need this certificate to be copied to the store of Automation Studio so that Automation Studio uh, recognize and trust the PLC to do OPC UA communication between them. So what we do in UA Expert, we click on Settings and then we select Manage Certificate out of the options proposed. And Manage Certificate, it gives us a dialog where in this dialog I can open the certificate location, and this will put me open the Windows File Manager at the location where the uh, OPC UA certificate is located. So you're going to find it. You can determine this file. You're going to see it, and it's a file where you're going to copy and paste to a specified location. And I showed, and then the location is very well explained in the PDF document. So once we copy it at this location, I am now ready to complete the process with the configuration process in Automation Studio. So this document is part of this package and will be delivered to you so you can review it and do it, execute it by yourself. Now let's go to Automation Studio to complete the connection process with the OPC UA server. So I have here in front of me Automation Studio open. So what you'll do, you'll click on the tool ribbon in the menu, tool ribbon, and then you select Communication Manager. And in Communication Manager, you have several tabs that are offered. You select the tab which say OPC Client UA. Now, OPC Client UA, what you do here is that we're going to create a link with the OPC server of exposed by the PLC. So what we do here, so we add an OPC server, and then we're going to go at the manual tab here in this window and punch in over here the address that was collected from the PLC, and it is this string. Paste it. Notice here that this number here may be different in your case because this is going to be the IP address of the PLC itself. This is the IP address I set to my Siemens PLC, so it is this number, but in your case it could be another number. Okay, so there's a difference. So take note of that because This part may be different on your side. Now the next thing is to click on apply it, and then once I apply it, it will open a window which is a configure OPC, which complete the configuration to connect with the OPC server. This one comes with the default value of anonymous for the authentication configuration. So we're going to keep it at this settings, and then we click to OK, and then automatically, as soon as I did this, you're going to see over here the status is connected, and it's a green LED button here, icon showing that I successfully connected to the PLC. Next part in the configuration is to create a group, and then group, we're gonna click on the group tab and then click on group, configure group. So here Automation Studio give me default name for it, which is group number one. This is good enough unless you want to change it to something suitable for your case. But group number one is really suitable as a name. And then the OPC server here, I'm going to connect it to server one, which is the server which I just got communication with it. Okay. Now, next part is going to be to create the linkage. Doing linking now, I'm going to click on the link tab, and then I click on group number one, and then automatically group number one, it will open for me on this a window, a browser, which is the connection, the configuration I did communicate with the PLC to see to do the linking between the PLC registers and Automation Studio. So first thing, we're gonna here at name, I can like clear up my filter. And if you noticed in my case, I just used motor start and motor stop, and these are connected to input 0 and input 1 of the PLC. So here, the PLC itself, if I just click on the PLC, you're going to see at the variable assignment section shows me the addresses of my input and output. So my input starts with I00. So if I just use a filter I by itself and 0, it will filter the variable to show me the inputs of the PLC. So I come over here, I can filter by name or by alias. I can use name. So if I put I0, so it shows me here the PLC addresses to tie in with my register in the PLC, the real PLC in the Siemens. So on I0, I have in my example, if I come over here, close this window, you see that in I0, I have my motor start and my motor stop is at I01. So in the address I0, I can go over here and then open the OPC UA interface that I created in the PLC, and this is going to be for the motor start. Now notice in this part when we tie in the variables to link to inputs, the value of the input is generated by Automation Studio to be written in the PLC. So for all inputs, we'll have to uh, select this kind of communication. X mean Automation Studio going to the PLC. Okay, so this is motor start. So we created the link. Now this is for the motor stop. Address 01, go to motor stop here, select it here, and then I click, and as soon as I'm clicking, I created the linkage between the variable. Now if I gonna go for the motor starter, it's gonna be the contactor. The contactor it's an output, so output, if I put here Q0, give me the address of the output of the PLC. So here Q0 0 gonna be the motor on. Now, in case of the output, the difference is that it is the PLC that generate the value of this register. So it is the value will flow from the PLC to Automation Studio. So I have to select this kind of linkage from OPC to Automation Studio. Now, if I click that, now everything is connected. Now everything is fine for me. Now I can close this window, and I completed the configuration process between Automation Studio and the PLC. Now it's the time to test and to see how things working. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to split my screen into two sections. I'm going to put in this section here my Automation Studio program here, and then in the next half over here, I'm going to show you the PLC program running in the Siemens. This is TIA portal in online communication with the PLC, and you see the PLC program here is very simple. It's one line of ladder, which is energizing the motor start, will energize the motor, and there is a holding contact. Motor on will keep the contact, and motor stop will stop the connections, and then we'll stop the motor. So let's start it. So what we'll do over here, we can just put it in simulation mode, put on my disconnect so that now the circuit is live for the motor. Now the next part is to just add it. So you see automatically here the logic execute in the PLC and the motor start. So I'm having an output on my contact, the motor start over here. Now if I hit on the motor stop will cut this line and put the motor to stop. So here I'm going to put some resistance, it's there. So if I just do like that, so here the motor stops, and that's it. So now that shows you how to connect the PLC to an Automation Studio project and put them together in action to do your simulation. Okay, hope this is useful and for you as a video, and if you have any question, you can communicate with me by email. Thank you very much.